JJ the CPA here. Hope you are doing well. Wanted to visit with you about the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act. It's the expanded version, the expansion, which is in the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act. It's inside of that. And that right here is different. You're going to hear things probably be mixed together, but that is different from the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. Okay? That's completely different. There's different circumstances related to that, which is more directly related to having COVID or quarantine or caring for those directly that have COVID. Different credits, different parameters, okay? This right here has its own set of credits, its own set of criteria. All right, so what are we talking about here? With this, if somebody is out because they're unable to work and the employer paid them, but if they're unable to work because they're caring for, and it says this specifically, a son or daughter under age 18 because the school or care provider is closed or unavailable, okay? Or they're unable to work because there's been a declared health emergency by a federal, state, or local government authority, okay? So if you hit this circumstance, okay? So this is not somebody with coronavirus. This isn't somebody quarantined. That is not required here. What's required is they're unable to work because they have to care for a son or daughter under 18 because the school or their care provider is closed, or they're unable to work because there's been a declared health emergency. So with that being said, if we're looking at what the credits are related to that, it's 200 max credit per day, okay? And then there's a 10,000 per employee maximum, okay? So in the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, that's not what we're talking about here. In that act, it's a 10-day max, okay, with different dollar amounts, okay? We're talking about the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act, the expanded one. And on this one, it is, yes, a $200 per day max per employee, and then there's a 10,000 per employee max. So let's be clear on this. If you have an employee and they're making $80 a day, $10 an hour, 8 hours, you're not going to get a $200 credit, you're going to get an $80 credit. So the credit is the lesser of $200 or what is actually paid to them. It's not a 10-day, it's a 10 grand. So if you've got someone that's making $80 a day and they're going to be out for a long time and that employer is going to pay them for a long time, then that maximum that comes into play is 10,000 per employee, okay? Now, the overall max that you have to look at though here, okay, because it's going to be real easy for you or employers or clients to think, oh, wow, well, then, this individual here, boom, your school's closed, you bet we'll take care of you, the government's going to pay you, go ahead and get out of here. Okay, maybe you can do that, but if you're doing that with a lot of employees, you have to keep in mind that this is the initial credit, okay? The 200 max per day, 10,000 max per employee. The maximum credit that's going to be allowed, okay, max credit that's going to be allowed is 7.65% of wages. So I've got a memo that talks about this. I've got some examples. There should be a link. It's also on www.jjthecpahelp.com. It's a free website, and what I mean by that is that it's separate from my business. I put it together for people that aren't clients just to have some information, just giving it away. But I've got a memo all about this and examples and some links, okay? But when I'm talking about this max 7.65% of all wages of determining your max credit. So if you have an employer, okay, and they have $10,000 in payroll for the quarter, let's say, okay, so what's 7.65% of 10 grand? $765, okay? So that would be the max credit. Now, they may have paid this person the $80 a day, and they've been gone for 10 days, so they got paid $800. Initially, you would go, well, that sounds like an $800 credit, and you'd be right initially. But then the credit is limited to the amount of Social Security and Medicare taxes that the employer pays, which is combined 7.65%, okay? So that's what the employer's paying. So on $10,000 in wages, the employer would pay 7.65% in Social Security and Medicare taxes, $765. So you let two of the employees and they're both making $80 a day. They're out for 10 days. The employer pays them, right? So we're talking $1,600 got paid out. The credit's going to be limited to 7.65% of all wages, okay? You do it with 40 employees or 10 employees or one employee, you take all wages times 7.65%, and that's the max. So typically, if I've been talking to a client, what we start with is this. What's the wages times 7.65%? That's your max credit. Then we can start worrying about this, because I talked with a client earlier, and when we were looking at it, I said, well, here's your max, okay? So here's the max that you're gonna be able to take. Your Social Security and Medicare tax that you pay as the employer on top of the wages. So then now when we were figuring out who's gonna be gone and when, they're not at all trying to figure that out and say, well, I'm only going to do it to the extent of the credit. It was just, that's where we started. And then when we're figuring out these other items, it's going to be the lesser of whatever the credit is for actual wages paid that qualify, or 7.65%. Now, this all expires on 12/31/2020. This is the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act. Go to www.jjthecpahelp.com. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. I've got a separate video talking about the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, and there's a series of other videos that go along with this to help you walk through how to determine your tax credits. But the biggest thing is making sure you know what limits that overall tax credit, which is 7.65% of wages. You got it. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Be safe out there. JJ the CPA out.